I don't really like cars. That's the video. This comes from the perspective of a person who doesn't own one, so perhaps it is just benign from without hate. But I feel like there are a lot of fundamental problems with cars that we don't really speak about. You know, not all of them can be, hey, are you depression maxing? Hey, do you know that you should indulge in yourself every now and then? Not all of them can be that. Sometimes we just have to hate cars, you know? I don't like their shapes. I was asked earlier, a week ago, what shape a car is. And I couldn't give them an answer. I was like, very vaguely trapezoid? You know, the one with the shorter top, the longer bottom, and the two angular sides. I thought maybe that would be close enough for a car shape. I gave it up to Google. Google said that a car shape be boxy, like a van. And I didn't agree with it, so I guess I hate Google as well now. I think it's that cars speak to me as a kind of indulgence. Even aside of the college's celestial causality, I've always been a city kid, right? It is a great boon to have either everything being within walking distance or having public transport be able to carry you from place to place. I guess the word that comes to mind really is accessibility. Everything wasn't so far away when it comes to city life and transit life and all that such. Sure, you're spending time going from place to place, but also those places could be places of meditation. I loved taking naps on public transportation. I wouldn't recommend it, considering all the terrible things that could happen. But public transportation and the transit, that liminal space between where I should be and where I am right now, has often been a space where I enriched myself. And I know people with their cars listen to audiobooks, or listen to music, or catch up and all that such, but there's a lot less pressure on you to perform well when you are not the driver of said vehicle, right? I think cars feel indulgent to me. Like, cars feel unnecessarily individualistic. When I think of a car, I think of its utility and how much utility it has. Like, I think one of the big things you go for during a zombie apocalypse or during a great catastrophe is find a car, because a car is simultaneously vehicle as well as apartment building, right? So many people live out of their cars. And that's not to disparage them. People have made a genre of car as utility, as all-in-one utility, as in van life, in bus life. They will take cars, and because what you're essentially buying is square footage on the road, you've basically created a mobile home for yourself, or as simple as having a hatchback that you lower the seat back far enough that it can be a bed for you. It feels as though a car can always be a home if needed. And maybe I don't think somebody needs two homes. Like, if somebody already has, like, an apartment. Again, this might just be city life, but if somebody already has an apartment, then why do they need a second home in their car? Because I get the utility, I get the appeal. You can't necessarily carry two large pizzas from one place to another by transit. It is much more helpful to have that square footage at your leisure to be able to drive around with. And maybe our society has conditioned us to believe that we should only be caring for our bare necessities, and indulgence in self is a consumerist ideal, and in some ways it is. But I think my grievances come with this idea of cars as luxury. Like, even the used, broken down car without an air conditioner or a radio, I still think of it somewhat as, hey, if you're ever in the doghouse and go for a long drive and sleep out somewhere else. I wanted to see if I can fill 10 minutes with cars, and I'm failing. And this doesn't come from a incredible love of public transportation either, because it has its issues. Something you can say in a boon for cars is that it's enclosed, it is safe, because it is a piece of square footage on the road that you own. It is a private space, in contrast with the roads or public transit, which will always be public. You will never be able to perform private intimacy in those out spaces. Maybe you can, but it's not very much encouraged. You can't cut your nails in public transport without being a weirdo. You can cut your nails in the car, amongst other things. I wonder if this is a case of the haves and haves not. Because if I had a car, if I had gotten used to that level, that floor of having extra space, having storage, having a space all to myself, like people scream in their cars, people have full-on meltdowns in their cars, people cuss people out in their cars, and the security of being within that car allows them to be able to perform these extreme emotions without public ridicule. So maybe I just need a car. Like, would I be this critical of cars if I had one? I think the most grievous wound a car has done to me, aside of hitting me a couple of times, is that I eventually got to a space where you need a car to move around. And I've never felt so isolated. It is a different thing. It is a different environment to be in a place that is only car accessible versus a place that allows you to walk everywhere. And I know urbanization isn't necessarily the solution, the goal, because we love countryside. And countryside is somewhat only accessible through cars. But I don't think I felt as alone or as helpless when I lived out of a house that didn't allow me to walk towards my basic necessities or needs. To be reliant on larger infrastructure scares me, or scared me at the time. I suppose that's why it's called an automobile, specifically and only because you have autonomy caused from it. We can't end the video there. Cars provide the fantasy of being a cowboy. I mean, I've seen it so often in Ford commercials and truck commercials and all the Ram commercials, but I think the most palpable fantasy that they give is that you are enabled to move and do as you like, and are enabled by this machine in a way that would only have been through a horse back in the day. It is completely and utterly reliant on you. It treats you as though you're a royalty. But we also have those faculties to move by ourselves, but it will never be as efficient. Maybe I would be more enriched by walking to places instead of transiting. If only because it would train me to ding 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 10 minutes.